Okay. Now that we're recording, actually, I think I'll start over again and say hello to everybody who's joined us for this Global Prayer of Changes for New Year's 2014. I'm Theo Cedar-Jones, and happy to invite everybody all at once to this New Year's webinar, Open Conversation. And I'd like to start with the Universal World Prayer. Beloved, inmost heart of every heart, do not let our human hearts be broken by our merely mortal suffering here, but let our mortal human hearts break free to an unconditional love of you, that we may love all living beings with love's own true and truly broken heart. All right. So we're opening up the floor here and the forum for anybody who would like to share their prayer and their vision for 2014 in the hopes that we can influence events in the most positive and benign way possible, and so that we can also help to spread the message of Not To Is Peace to many more people in the coming year. And so I'll go ahead and start with my prayer of changes, and then if Lenore would like to share anything, you could certainly write or type your prayer into your instant message, and I could read it for you if you like. All right, here we go. Beloved human family, and all of Earthkind, and Earth itself, I pray and vision for us all to be surrounded in and protected by light in 2014. May world problems such as market shocks, climate change, Fukushima, Syria, Israel, Palestine, weapons of mass destruction, and ego culture arrive at their most benign solutions. And may the course of human civilization be redirected from ego-based civilization to egoless and prior unity-based civilization. And may the culture of people informed by Not To Is Peace grow sufficient for the establishment of the Global Cooperative Forum in 2014. Here ends my prayer of changes for 2014. All right. Mike, would you like to share your prayer?
My prayer of change for 2014
Yeah.
is that all people opening to light in their hearts and their minds could see and feel they can serve each other beyond the market, that they can truly collaborate independently of the market. They can collaborate in different kinds of groups for mutual service for mutual needs. And that market agenda does not need to participate. There would be a totally new door that can open this year. to seeing the possibility of both groups living independently of the market in collaboration, and also that people, hello?
Here,
Also that people can live...
I muted myself because my dog was barking. Keep going,
Yeah.
Mike. Yeah.
Okay, and also that people can act all at once in a benign way that can be seen and appreciated and responded to by everyone in a benign, creative way, without the market, without the government, and without any of the other corporate or other organizations interfering. This is a new door.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm visualizing the world lighting up.
So, Lenora, if you just want to just say anything by typing, just let us know that you're there. Or if you want to I think you can cut and paste into that message field also, if you want to send us anything that you've written. I thought I'd give a little reading from Not To His Peace. And then maybe we could talk a bit more details about certain visions for certain topical areas of planet Earth. This is a reading from Not To His Peace, Chapter 6 from Part 1, on establishing rules of participation for a global cooperative order. Presently, the international community has no effective way of dealing with geopolitical issues. Because it is fundamentally about tribes in competition with one another, there is no force that embodies everybody and that, therefore, can effectively deal with the system as a whole. Bits of the system are always confronting one another. Therefore, those who hold out or want to play it hard wind up controlling the whole system. In general, the so-called big powers are bypassing rules and playing for dominance. But everybody is playing their part in the tribal struggle game, which is not in the interest of humankind, and it is not survivable. Rules and accountability are essential for any system. Any notion that you can bypass such accountability is a lie in the name of serving some kind of self-interest. And this disposition is creating every crisis. Systems self-correct, but when you bypass that system, as is now the case globally, then the system cannot correct itself anymore. Mm-hmm. It is just careening downhill with a stave shoved in the wheels. It is inevitable that it is going to self-destruct. Therefore, the international power struggles have to be replaced by a systems-based order with rules and limits established. It is only when the system can represent itself as a totality and keep its rules in front of everyone that the system can correct itself. A rational and positive global situation requires rules for participation based on global interdependence and prior unity, rather than being based on nation-states or other groups engaging in reactive measures in the face of being provoked, or otherwise acting aggressively to extend their influence. The process for dealing with global realities should not be merely punitive. Rules for participation should be established, and then doors would be either opened or closed based on whether any given nation state or other entity abides by those rules.
That's it.
Participation should be the one thing everybody values, not competition, not dominance and victory over all, but participation in a global system that allows every nation state, every human domain to survive and enjoy essential well-being and growth, and the growth, potential, and benefits of participation in the whole. The rules of participation in the global community should not be arbitrary or set up to favor certain parties over others. The rules of participation should establish positive and equal participation for everyone, with no double standards that require some to obey the rules while others do not. The Global Cooperative Forum is the system of everybody all at once, reasserting itself and establishing rules of participation that put all matters of global business equitably on the table, including matters of severe chronic conflict, competition for resources, degradation of the environment, and disruption of weather patterns, poverty, disease, and so forth. Right rules of participation will establish an entirely different principle than nation-state competitiveness. It will allow humankind as a whole to become a functioning system, a system to which all parties get access by fulfilling certain obligations and responsibilities which apply everywhere. Here ends this recitation from On Establishing Rules of Participation for a Global Cooperative Order. Does anybody have any feedback about that?
I do.
Yes, Mike, what do you think?
People who wish to serve and be served in return would be willing to join a collaborative non-government organization that is completely transparent. Everything is open book and accountable, and the results of effort are shared by everyone. And the motivation to join and participate is to share in the benefits shared by all the people creating it. Because if you have a problem and you wish to solve it, but you need help, and you get together and collaborate with people all over the world who have other pieces of the solution, but maybe they have similar problems, but they have different means and different ways to work a solution. Then when you all get together, you work out solutions that work for each one of you. Then each one of you has gotten benefit out of the collaboration. And this can work with resources as well as knowledge, technology, means. This is actually the basis, the foundation, value underneath the Creative Commons.
Right.
That's online.
The Creative Commons.
And we need to have new organizations, non-government organizations that are global and available to anyone on the internet, that have an ongoing, growing database of solutions that are worked out. And everybody that participates then has access to it. And it's not something for people who want to empower themselves and each other without getting into the whole market tribal competition for resources and means.
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, it's usually not available or inadequate for individual people no matter where they are on this planet. And second of all, the present global industrial market culture works by moving resources and know-how over great distances powered by energy that should be used locally.
Yeah.
So this is a decentralization empowerment
Right.
that I'm speaking of.
Right.
And those that really benefit from it are those that want to be decentralized. Anyone who wants to do the centralized one-to-many and be in control is not going to find the technology very helpful.
Right.
But those who are working in small groups but collaborating globally with everybody
Right.
are going to find that it does work on a small, decentralized basis very well when everybody puts their mind to solving that problem and not the other.
Right. So that's interesting model that you're pointing out, Mike, because you're pointing out that the eco-technologies and eco-ops that you have been writing about would tend towards a decentralized form of empowerment, where you
Absolutely.
have small groups collaborating globally instead of large centralized powers trying to make a profit off of everybody else.
And if you think for a moment of any population, they have a footprint. Cities have enormous footprints in the ecosystem and in the weather and resources and everything else. The only way that you can shrink your footprint to zero is, first of all, you've got to become independent from the market, because the market is sucking stuff from all over the planet, and that's how the footprints are spread. And second of all, you have to do everything locally, exactly the way Beloved said. He said, solve problems locally. Don't solve them globally. Don't try the big deal one. No. This is not an unusual thing. These are ordinary things. It's got to be solved locally and become part of your ordinary day-to-day life. It has to be efficient and simple. It's not something that's going to take all the time in your life. I mean, how else would you have the time to do any realization or anything else of value in culture if it took all your time? And everybody has this idea in their mind from, oh yeah, people growing in the dirt, you know, it's like me digging in the garden, and it has all this labor-intensive stuff. Well, we do it because it's interesting and fun. There is some intense labor to get it set up, but the maintenance labor is on a much lower level. But right now, this stuff needs to be developed, and there needs to be a standardized way of taking different processes and plugging them together to make whole living circuits so they don't have a footprint. And this is going to take a lot of people. It's not just one guy here, me or somebody else working off in the corner somewhere.
Right.
Says, oh, I got it. You know, no, it's not the way it's going to work. I can show the specifications. I can show how it's going to work. But then putting it together is something else again. And an example is actually orbiting up here, the space station, the International Space Station. It's built all over the world. But all the parts plug together and work. Now, how do they do that? Well, NASA played a key role, but it played with all the other players. They set up functional physical standards that had performance standards, and they had actual physical interface standards for all the components and how they would work. And this had to work with all the power. It had to work with all the plugged-together modules. It had to work with everything that's used in that space station to keep those people alive.
Right.
And they had to share it. And they had to be accountable for it. They had to test it and make sure it would work. So now, NASA and the International Space Station project has great respect all over the planet because it is operating with total integrity in order to just do what it's doing.
Right.
That's the way this stuff has to operate. It has to start both locally and globally at the same time.
Right. Well, here we are. We're global on internet webinar.
Yeah.
All of our friends can join us at Global Cooperative Forum 2013.weebly.com on December 31st, 2013. And we're here to bring forth our best and brightest vision for 2014. What do we want to see manifest in 2014? How do we want to see the values of Not To Is Peace expanded and brought into the world in 2014? So, Mike, you have written some papers about eco-ops and eco-technologies, and you've talked about how we're not just trying to create local sustainability, but we're also trying to have time for spiritual practice and for realization. How does this work together in your vision? How are we going to live such that we have time for spiritual practice, for cooperative community?
Well, first of all, we're going to have to set aside some time, just as any disciple does, set aside time to meditate, to invoke connection with prior unity
Yeah.
in the form of whatever particular way they have found to connect with that,
Mm-hmm.
and to see everybody else as arising within that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that going on all the time. We're going to have to put a lot of time and energy investment in the beginning. And this is difficult when people are out working in the world. They're working full time.
Right.
They don't have much left over. They're already taking most of their funds, tithing. They're also doing the same with their time. There's very little left over. But if we start by the simple things of moving into community, we can do group housing, and we can certainly do growing the food in the places where we have the group housing. If we begin to work in that way and do it in several places on the planet, then what will happen is that you will find that the more you are able to support yourself by participation in the local community of people living in prior unity, of connecting in prior unity, that is independent of the marketplace, then you'll find that a savings comes through right off. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
From the decentralization itself, and this is not obvious to people. There is an overhead of everything you get from the marketplace that has to do with getting and bringing it from all over hell and putting it together right to your doorstep.
Right.
Okay? Now, we think that, okay, well now if I'm going to do it for myself, I'm going to have to do all this incredible work to create it right there. But if you're working and able to create it in a very small community, you simply don't have to move it very far. Okay? Second of all, you can get control of your health. How do you do that? By first getting control of your food.
Right.
Okay? You are going to be running off of solar energy far more, and actually you could even do local transportation with solar energy. Why? Because you don't have to go very far.
Right.
Well, now suddenly you're getting all kinds of savings. You don't have to work so much to buy so much fuel, to pay for so many vehicles, to, you know, I mean, all this kind of stuff happens. Now, how about making things?
Right.
The group that has already pledged themselves to make 50 tools for building civilization and to make them available to anybody, how to build them, instructions on the web, is the what is it, the Ecological Commons, Ecology,
The
I forget the name right now. Anyway, this group
we'll
there,
fact check that, Mike. Ecological Commons, just for the notes here, people.
yeah. When you go there, they have these 50 tools, and one of the ones that they've already built is like one of those little skip loader, Bobcat skip loader things. Basic
Right.
tool for building and construction. It's what I would need to do. I have equipment to do monolithic dome, but I need to get one of these little things to make it work. So you can find on the site plans and specifications which you can print out, and you can just go buy the material. You buy the square tubing, you buy the bolts, you buy all these materials, you buy the hydraulic part. These are all standard industrial parts off the shelf.
Right.
You put them all together, you assemble it, and you can make this thing. And they've tested it, and they run around with it, and they're developing it, making it better and better.
Right.
The guy who did this started it. He was a physicist, and he got freaked out just working on subatomic theories. He was working under another PhD, and he said, well, where are all these theories coming from? And the other guy said, well, we're just making them up. And he thought, well, how am I contributing to people and their situation on this planet by just making this stuff up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He went out and he got a farm that's back east, and then he thought, well, I'm going to try some of this. Let's see if we can live with a smaller footprint thing. So he got himself a tractor, and it broke. And then he tried to get parts for it, and then he found the whole industrial thing about making a product commodity with a factory and then keeping everybody coming back dependent for more.
Yeah.
Like you have to buy the new model. You can't keep it going. You don't have a 20-year thing. Planned obsolescence and all this. He said, what is this?
Right.
So then he started getting together with people for these 50 tools. One of the other tools is a ram earth brick making machine.
Uh-huh.
So he built a big warehouse area to work with, and they're developing these machines there. His little skip loader works great, so I'm driving around using it.
Right.
What he found out, and this is the kicker, when you buy the material and you assemble one of these little skip loaders this way, it costs, total cost of money to buy things from the market, and I don't think he was throwing his labor into it, but you go out and you get the parts made by different shops anyway. That was included in it.
Yeah.
The work done, and you just assembling the parts. It's like a kit when you get done. Getting all the things cut and drilled. He found it cost 1/6 buying a new one.
Right.
In
1/6.
the marketplace.
Uh-huh.
Now I want to explain to you what that 6 times cost is in the marketplace. I want to explain exactly how the marketplace works. When we just dump our animal body needs on the market, the huge consequence is that collectively it takes the character of it creates the character of the marketplace. It runs around, eats all the resources, all the people, and then it cannibalizes the marketplace itself over and over again in cycles.
Right.
And when you loan money at interest, or you create money by interest, any way that you put money into existence by interest means you're charging usury or a fee for the use of the money, and that's above and beyond any new value actually created by anybody.
Right.
And that's how the whole marketplace cannibalizes itself. And it's always done this in every civilization. The last 7,000 years, always some form of it going on. Now, we pay right now taxes. You got a factory. They have first of all done all their tooling with loans, and they got to pay those loans.
Yeah.
They got to have so many 100,000 vehicles off a factory line or units off a factory line in order to pay for the cost of tooling, and then beyond that they start making a profit.
Right.
If they don't, they're going to go bankrupt because they can't pay their loans then.
Right.
That's why this thing of, if somebody obsoletes your vehicle or your product, you're out of the market. Oh, what a disaster. Now, then you have absentee stockholders.
Right.
They're not owner workers. These are like absentee landlords. They're only interested in profit.
Right.
So you get through with the overhead there. There's some of the interest that has nothing to do with real productivity. Right at the factory. Now it goes into wholesale. There's a middleman. He's got to get his profit. He's got a business. He has to pay his taxes. So more taxes and more profit added onto it. Then it goes to the retailer. Okay, now you've got that. Then you've got all of the supply chain that supplied this stuff to the factory, because the factories depend on the marketplace, just like all the businesses are dependent on the marketplace. They're just like a person.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any customers. They have no income. They can't pay their overhead. They're dead. So all of that gets added up. By the time you get the product, it has all this stuff tacked on it. It's ridiculous. Now, I just went down to Target yesterday, and I was looking for a yoga rug I could throw on the bed of my flatbed truck out here to do yoga, because I could use it like a floor out there. And I found this. This was on sale. What they call closeouts.
Yeah.
And it was right there, and I got a roll, and it didn't have anything on it, and I talked to the person. I said, can we find out what this costs? He said, no. She said to me, well, what do you think it costs? I said, I think it costs $20. I think that's what it's really worth. She said, well, I think that's what it's worth too, $20. Why don't you go up and tell them that it was in the sale place, 70% off, and that it was like marked down from like $45, like the other ones are priced at. So I said, okay. I went up to the check stand. The guy said, oh, I'll check. And he unrolled it a bit. And he said, oh, I found a tag. And then he ran it through his little scanner. And he says, oh, no, this is not on sale. I said, how much is it? $60, he said. I said, what? I want to buy something that's worth $20 for $60? You see?
Right. So you've helped outline,
nuts.
Mike,
We're
all
all
the...
against it. We're up against it this way all the time. It's ridiculous. Now, the other thing, the other end of it is, how could you make it yourself in a local area? Well, this is where you have to have a maker shop, in which everybody comes together and they all learn various tools. You've got to have it set up just like you would in any other factory area. You've got to have some tools that are used in the maker shop, and they're owned. The maker shop is a business owned by a one-person family, one person that runs it, and half owned by the eco-op.
Mm.
Now everybody then owns some of it, but they've got the tools that are used there at the shop. They're all used and maintained by the owner. Oversees that, makes sure it's there, it's held accountable.
Right.
Anybody can look up online, whatever, and see what's posted, what's going on there. When somebody checks out a tool, they got to bring it back. If something's going on with it, they got to make sure it's back in its functional state, or why, and put it where it's supposed to be. Either back where it is, somebody else can use it, or where it's going to get repaired, and everybody knows it.
Mm-hmm.
All the safety stuff has to be there. Now, if you have these new tools that are coming, which are printable, you have a computer terminal, you have a CAD drawing, you can print out something. You print it out of plastic, you can print it out of metal, you can machine the damn thing out of metal, you start making sophisticated parts, but you only need to make a few of those.
Right.
And the rest of the stuff you can buy from the industry. In the beginning, if you had nothing from industry, you could actually make a lot of the other parts. But some stuff is so common that you can find it anywhere on the planet. You know, like 4-inch square steel tubing, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Basic stock. That's the stuff that should be mass-produced and distributed. But then once you have a certain amount of it in your ecological co-op, you want to recycle it all. Or if you have it so that it's scrap and it needs to be run through a steel mill again, then you take the scrap to the steel mill, get credit for that, use it against the new steel you buy that's milled out.
Right, right. So there...
When you've got a product that you are using and it starts to go bad, you repair it. You make it like new. You don't go and buy a whole new one.
Yeah.
And if it's upgraded, new technology, better way to do it, oh, well, then you recycle the parts, you get whatever you need that's new, or make the parts you need that's new, and you assemble a new one. And you may keep the old one going until you've got the new one working. The amount of energy and money required then means that there does need to be some things coming in, especially initially when you're setting up these ecological co-ops, from the outside marketplace. But very, very little compared to other